Before the pandemic shut down the world, Skype held the largest share of the video calling market. So when businesses, friends, and families had no choice but to interact with each other through their screens, Skype was set to see the sort of growth other companies can only dream of. But that didn't happen. Instead, Zoom seemed to pop up out of nowhere and take over the industry in what felt like the blink of an eye. So what exactly did happen? How did Zoom's founder, who moved to the US unable to speak a word of English, beat Microsoft and build the #1 video calling platform in the world? And how did a young man's desire to see his girlfriend turn into a company worth billions of dollars? This is the incredible love story that changed the world. This is the inspiring true story of Zoom. Eric Yuan was born in China in 1970. Throughout his childhood, Eric always had he'd collected. So Eric came up with the idea of setting the scraps on fire, hoping to burn away everything but the metal that he needed. He knew he would get in trouble for lighting a fire though, so he took his bundle of scraps into his neighbor's old chicken shed so his parents wouldn't see him do it. However, as he lit the scraps on fire, the flames quickly spread to the wooden floor beneath him. Before Eric could do anything to stop it, the walls of the shed caught alight too. And reading countless more stories in his father's newspapers and local magazines about Silicon Valley, where companies like Microsoft and Apple were just starting to make a name for themselves with their innovative technology, Eric knew that something incredible was happening, something he wanted to be a part of. In fact, Eric fantasized about one day starting his own technology company, just like the people he was reading about. But that was halfway across the world. And locally, the entire journey dreaming of one day being able to see Sherry more easily and frequently, as he was only able to see her a couple of times a year. He wondered, what if he could have some sort of smart device where he could just click a few buttons and see her face and interact with her from wherever he was? Eric's overactive mind thought about it every single day, but he didn't yet know how to make it happen. Despite the distance between them though, Eric knew she was the one. Perhaps there he could learn how to achieve his dream. If it hadn't been for that, Eric's overactive mind thought about it every single day, but he didn't yet know how to make it happen. Despite the distance between them though, Eric knew she was the one. Perhaps there he could learn how to achieve his dream. If it hadn't been for that speech from Bill Gates, it's entirely possible Eric would have gone down a very different path. But inspired by the words of one of his childhood idols, and with a firmly set goal, Eric decided to head to America. And with the extensive qualifications and coding skills he now had, he thought it would be easy to get into the States. But Eric could not have been more wrong. Barely able to speak English, to Silicon Valley to join WebEx as one of their first 10 engineers. Though leaving his family behind and giving up his small startup business was a very tough decision for Eric, he knew he had to do it. However, Eric soon discovered the transition wasn't going to be quite as smooth or easy as he'd expected. He was going to have to quickly learn a new language and a new culture, not to mention the challenges of making new friends when he could barely speak any English. And thus, said to himself that one day, it would be his own company going public instead. But before Eric could even consider that, a tragedy unfolded that made his job more difficult than ever. After 9/11, the world was gripped by fear and paranoia. Many companies didn't want to fly employees across the world unless they absolutely had to. This meant demand for WebEx's software dramatically increased, as it let businesses hold cheap virtual audio meetings. But Eric realized this was an opportunity versus lack of care for innovation, and especially their poor customer service. Eric frequently met with clients who always had huge issues and complaints about their services. Customers complained that the software was slow to start up, that the video would lag, and if they had too many people on a call, the audio and video would fail completely. Plus, they were crying out for new updates like the ability to screen share. Unfortunately, Eric's attempts to fix these issues were ignored, advice and input, and now he'd lost one of the most important people in his life. With everything that was going on, Eric was feeling more lost and depressed than ever. But that unhappiness led Eric to a revelation. The thing that actually gave him purpose, that made his life feel like it had meaning, was making other people happy. When he made his family, his wife, his customers happy, he felt happy. Eric said, "When I was young, I had no idea about the purpose of life. But I've re-jesting, they would have to build an entirely new platform, not just update their existing software. It just wasn't going to be worth their time or money, especially when they felt the marketplace was already overcrowded. They were already struggling to compete with companies like Skype for business clients, and newer products like FaceTime and Google Hangouts were already servicing the home user market. They felt there was no demand for Eric's new user-friendly platform, but years at WebEx, so he figured sourcing investment shouldn't be too difficult. So Eric went to every venture capitalist he knew and pitched them his idea, and every single one of them came back with the exact same answer: no. None of them were interested in investing in yet another video calling platform. Just like his old bosses, they claimed the Microsoft-backed Skype, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, and Cisco themselves were already huge players in that arena, and they couldn't really or onboard. More money began to flow, and Eric's friends also put in what they could to help out. With the help of his friends and investors, Eric was able to raise the initial money he needed to pay a team of engineers to develop the software for his new company, which he initially called SaaSB. Eric wasn't happy with the name choice, but he struggled to think of one he liked more. But that didn't matter right now. Eric had just founded an American company, as an American city had realized in his 4 years under Cisco that if employees weren't happy, the quality of their work dropped. So Eric decided that above everything else, this newfound purpose in life, happiness, was going to be the driving force behind his company. Making the customer happy, making his employees happy, and making himself happy. But just because Eric's idea was simple, it doesn't mean it was easy, and it was going to require a team of the best engineers. The good news is that the way companies battle against each other and devise strategies to win. But today's